Hey, chiropractic students and recent grads, how successful could you be if you had a resource that clarified your vision, helped you develop a plan, saved you money, time, and heartache, shortened your learning curve, and helped set you on a course to become profitable your first few months after opening? The Chiro Planner is here. More than just a journal, it's a guide to creating and launching your chiropractic practice in 100 days. It's jam-packed with tools, tips, ideas, action steps, resources, and inspiring quotes from some of the top chiropractors and business leaders today. Think of it as your own personal mentor, inspiring you, answering your questions, helping you set goals, and advising you on the many unknowns of opening a practice. Go to chiroplanner.com today to order your copy. Hey there, my friend. This is Dr. Richard Day, and you have found the Chiro Business Mojo podcast. We've got a good one for you today. Now, have you ever looked at doing house calls? Have you ever thought, how can I reduce my monthly overhead, get rid of this lease payment that I'm making, having to deal with all of these employees that I'm paying their salary, really decrease my stress? Maybe this is something for you. Now, maybe it's something for you if you're just graduating and looking for a very low-cost startup opportunity. Consider becoming a house call doctor. I mean, this is like the good old days, right? When doctors used to go and make actual house calls. So it's an opportunity to serve your avatar, your ideal patient, right in their homes or in their workplace. And you can go in and you can see an entire family, or 10, 12 people if you stop by the office every 2 weeks or every month or something like that. Now you've got to be willing to travel, but that can be a tax write-off. There is a whole lot of benefits to this. Remember, this is a low overhead opportunity. And recently, Dr. Haley sat down with Dr. Lucas Marchand. He's a house call chiropractor in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. He got his degree in biology from Wayne State College, and then he went on to attend chiropractic school at Northwestern Health Sciences University in Bloomington, Minnesota. He shares a lot of great information with you, and Haley asked some great questions too, so I know you will enjoy this episode.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Marchand, for being with us today. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm doing good.
Good.
So thank you for accepting my request to be on the podcast.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm in your Facebook group, and so I'm very intrigued by everything you have going on, and I'm excited to dig in.
Perfect. Let's do it.
Okay. So can you start by telling us a little bit about why you became a chiropractor?
I didn't have the awesome story that I heard with a lot of my classmates where they had like some, miracle, healing with chiropractic, or I didn't have family of chiropractors, that I kind of went off of. I went in, kind of pre-med, like a lot of kids do. And about my sophomore year, I really got into just like alternative health, I guess. I was really into nutrition and exercise and all that stuff. And I had a couple friends that were interested in going to chiro school, so I shadowed some of the clinics that were in the area. And I completely switched from going, potentially the med school route to going into chiropractic. And then I played college football, so I did have, I guess, a few injuries, and I went to the chiropractor for that. But that's really how I got into it. It wasn't like a crazy story. I just thought it was something cool, and I knew I wanted to be in the healthcare, and I felt like chiropractic would be a good fit for me, especially if I had entrepreneurial aspirations.
Cool. Yeah. When I was a little kid, I wanted to be a doctor until I got a shot, and I thought, I can't do that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Then I went a long time before I decided, hey, I can kind of do this without doing that.
Yep.
So what were your plans after graduation? Were you going to be an associate, or what did you do?
So I did. I was an associate. I was very tactical coming out of school. Obviously I practiced very different than how I associated. I specifically wanted to learn how to run a business, and because I didn't, you don't get much of that in school. So my goals were, when I was doing my T10 internship and then my associate, I specifically vetted clinics that were under some form of practice management. They're seeing a high volume of people, more than 300 people a week. Not that I practice that way, obviously, with house calls. And then that I had an opportunity to learn the marketing and maybe build my own practice and assist that clinic so I could learn the skill set. So I associated right out of school down in Texas, and it was a very busy clinic. It was they were seeing about 500 or 600 people a week between two docs.
Oh, wow.
And I learned a lot. Definitely not for me. I think I was a bit naive going into it. I was all excited, ready to get started. But so yeah, that's what I started out right out of grad school.
Okay. And how long did you do that for?
I did that for a year so I graduated in the fall of 2014. And then 2015, I was licensed and I could work at the clinic. I just couldn't treat or do anymore. I was basically just doing x-rays and, that stuff. And then so I got licensed in 2015 and then I spent a year there. And then after that, I moved back home to South Dakota and started my house call practice. And I wasn't planning on the big move and starting a practice. So that's why I started house calls, to be honest.
Okay. It was just kind of a way to break into the scene.
Yeah. I mean, in 2015, my dad passed away and so I decided I needed to move back and be closer to my mom and my sisters. And I knew after having an experience as an associate, which wasn't that great. I learned a lot there. I mean, there was a 6-month honeymoon phase where I really, I took it all in, but it just wasn't for me. And I knew that I didn't want to associate again. And I was probably going to stick around Sioux Falls for a while. And I didn't want to have to deal with any sort of non-competes. So I just was like, all right, I'm just going to start my own. I'm not going to take out a business loan because we have plenty of student loan debt. And I'm not sure, if I'm going to be successful as a business owner. So I'll just kind of go off my savings. So I figured all I need is my hands and a table and something to do notes with. And that's really about it. And that's kind of how I got into house calls.
I think that's great. The first question I have for someone when they come to me and they want to be an associate is, well, do you plan on being in that area? Because if you do, you need to consider the non-compete aspect of it.
Yep.
So,
yep.
Cool. So do you have anyone that works with you?
Nope. I'm a solopreneur right now.
Okay. Well, I'm really interested in this because there's a lot of aspects that I think someone with a brick and mortar office may not think of when they, you start to do house calls.
Yep.
So do you use an EHR?
I don't. I started out using that because I didn't know any better. So I started out with a free one. And now they're not free anymore. I think they charge quite a bit more. And for what they offered, I decided if I was going to pay for that much a month for their EHR, I wanted more. So what I did is I spoke with a couple HIPAA compliance officers, and I kind of went paperless basically. So what I do is or paperless, EHRless, and I'll scan basic intake forms into a file onto my computer that I do when I do these house calls. And then I basically have a running Word document, which is like a travel card for that person with, their chief complaint and the date and then my SOAP. And then I sign it with an electronic signature and I back all that up to an external hard drive. It's all dual encrypted. And so I don't even have an EHR right now. I keep my overhead really low, and at this point it's kind of almost sometimes it's a little ridiculous because I've been doing this for a while. I probably can afford to invest in some services, but I like to keep it pretty low. So yeah.
When we opened, overhead was really big for us. We wanted to keep it as minimal as possible so that we weren't having to work extra to pay for the overhead.
Yep.
And we started using files too. We didn't have an EHR. So I think it's a really good way to start.
Yep.
So then do you bill insurance?
I don't bill any insurance. It's all, just straight out of pocket. And I've even moved away from doing the super bill. It gets annoying. And I actually don't have too many people asking if they could have a receipt or if they could bill their insurance. So I haven't
Do you know if someone wanted to, can you be in Medicare and be a house call chiropractor?
I think you can. When I got out of school, once I was getting my NPI and with this associate clinic, and I was going through the process of going through Medicare and starting the insurance process, I just decided I didn't want to do insurance in the future, and I knew I wasn't going to be an associate forever, and I wanted to be all cash or whatever. And so I didn't even finish the registering with Medicare. So I legally cannot see a Medicare patient. So, but Medicare, from what I understand with some of the people in our group, I think it's been fine. I think they do see, a Medicare population via house calls. Okay. And I think it's fine, but I don't do that, so I'm not sure 100% of that.
Yeah. Okay. And now is tax time. What are some of the major tax benefits of being a house call chiropractor? Can you deduct your car?
Yeah. I mean, you can deduct mileage. I do mileage. There's probably two different ways you can do it. You can deduct, just expenses and gas and costs, but the mileage deduction is really good. Because it's like, I think that it's like 55 cents a mile or something like that they comp you on. And that accounts for any vehicle maintenance and insurance and, all that stuff. And it keeps it pretty simple. So you don't have a ton to keep track of. You just keep track of, if you're using the vehicle out for personal use, then you have to keep track of at the beginning of the year what it started at, and then keep track of how many miles you put on via doing house calls or traveling for, marketing or continuing ed or something like that, and then just figure out the difference.
Okay. So you save a bunch on overhead. Is there anything that becomes more expensive? I guess gas, but you get to tax deduct that.
Yeah, no, I mean, I can't think of anything where...
Drawbacks?
What's that?
Any drawbacks that you can think of?
I don't think so, because... at first, when you have your overhead as low as possible, I mean, even embarrassingly low, like me, it gives you time to figure out the market and what you need to do. And now I've, built up, the practice where now I take a lot of that money that I was just saving, because I'm very conservative. I save a lot of my money. And now I'm just taking that money and I'm starting to invest it. And I hired a Facebook guy to help me out with Facebook advertising. And I feel like I'm pretty read up on that stuff, but it's better just to outsource it to someone that's what they do. And then I don't have to worry about Facebook. I'm just being a chiropractor. And and it's been really successful so far. I've only been doing it a month, and it's been really good. And if that keeps going the way it's going, then I'll take that money and put it into Google Ads. And if that goes good, then we'll put it into something else. And so now I feel like, 3 years into it, now I'm starting to thrive a bit more. The first year I was kind of in that survival mode. I just didn't want to be that statistic that failed. So now I'm starting to invest more into the practice. And they say, in a business, 10% of your revenue should go into marketing. But with house calls, I mean, you really don't have too much overhead, generally speaking. So you could probably push that a little more. And so I'm going to start doing that this year, or I have been doing that this year. So, yeah.
I like that you said it takes a couple years to get traction, right?
Yeah.
I feel like my husband works at the school, and we talk to a lot of students, and I think there's this impression that some people just jump off right off the bat. And I think that more commonly it takes a couple years to feel like you're in a groove, and you start spending more money on things you need and things that'll kind of keep propelling you forward. Yep. So
I mean, it's tough to, that's one thing I would tell younger people watching this in school is, social media can be you can learn a lot. I mean, we have this Facebook group and a bunch of other groups that you can, get advice from, more seasoned docs. But at the same time, you're on Facebook and you see some of your classmates and it looks like they're really killing it. They got a beautiful new clinic. They just graduated, it looks like they're helping a ton of people and then they're doing well financially, but you don't know the whole story. But it can be depressing kind of just seeing that and looking at your own practice and like, man,
Yeah.
So,
well, you just have to remember it's a highlight reel. You know, anyone, why would you post anything else on for everyone to see?
Yep.
So why do most people seek you out for the house call chiropractic?
So when I started, and I still do this, you know, I learned a lot about marketing when I was in that high volume practice down in Texas. We did a lot of spinal screenings, which I don't personally really care to do, but you know, if you like doing it, you know, that's good for you. And massage events, and I'm just not good at that stuff. It was easy when I didn't know anybody in that community, and I could go out and just, you know, do a spinal screening, and I didn't care who saw me because I didn't know anyone. But this is my community, this is my hometown. People know who I am, and I don't want to, like, I don't know, tarnish my reputation by kind of, for me, putting myself out there like that and kind of being like that. So what I did was I did, you know, external marketing, but I was just available Saturdays and Sundays and into the evenings during the week. And honestly, people are just Googling chiropractors open now or chiropractors near me. And I mean, I was getting, you know, tons of people on the weekend because no one's open on the weekend here. And that's kind of really how I started building it. So at first, that's how they sought me out, was I was just available. And then now, I mean, I have a pretty big wellness base now, and it doesn't take a lot of volume to fill your practice in with wellness patients when you're doing house calls. So now it's a lot of just retention for me, but also I'm getting, you know, new ones now from Facebook. And since I started doing that, I think, to be honest, I'm still, even doing this for 3 years now, I'm still in that relatively obscure, you know, people tell me, like, I didn't even know this existed. So it's not like I'm ubiquitous in my market yet. I'm just comfortable right now. So I just want to keep pushing it. So people will seek me out because of convenience, my availability. And I'm surprisingly, I don't really have super high fees. So I'm relatively affordable. So that combination, I think that's why people seek me out. So,
do you have an avatar, or kind of, we call it the ideal patient avatar?
Yep. Yeah. It's kind of changed. I thought when I started out, I was going to market to professionals, you know, like lawyers and entrepreneurs and whatnot. And what I found is I was just it's kind of the idea. It's like, okay, build something and see who likes it, I guess. And for some reason, you know,
who you like?
Yeah. And like, and like, for some reason, like I keep the stats on this, like the average person that calls me is, you know, under 30, just under 30. They're about 30 years old, and it's 50-50 male, female, probably making less than $60,000 a year. You know, it's not these high end, you know, lawyers and doctors and professionals. It's very, you know, normal people. And that's like my base right there. So I guess my avatar now is that, and I kind of market towards them. I was talking the other day to someone about car wraps, and we were talking about avatars and who your market is. And, you know, when I started out and I was if I was going to market to professionals, then I would get a nicer, you know, like a Range Rover or a Mercedes or something, you know, and that's, you know, maybe even an unmarked vehicle. But because my you know, patient base is, you know, just regular blue collar folks, they wouldn't mind if I had like a big pickup with a car wrap on it or something like that. It just depends on who your demographic is, and mine tends to be that latter group. So.
Wow. And it probably depends on your area too. I mean, are you in an urban area? Are you where there would be a lot of attorneys? And
yeah, I mean, Sioux Falls is decent sized. Sioux Falls is about 195,000, the town itself. And then you had some of the surrounding towns. So it probably gets to about 220,000, and it grows about 3% a year. It's growing really fast right now. You know, there's 2 major medical hospitals here. Citibank headquarters are here. You know, there's a lot of job opportunities here. And there's a lot of chiropractors here because insurance is reimbursements are really good here. So I mean, it's funny that I don't take insurance because of that, but like, so yeah, no, it's a pretty, the way I describe Sioux Falls is there's a lot of people that come in from the surrounding small towns and they move into the quote big city of Sioux Falls. And so it's an amalgam of a bunch of people from small towns. And I think that attitude is, you know, what consists of Sioux Falls. So it's kind of blue collar attitude for sure. It's a big population though.
Okay. Well, I was intrigued by a post you made on Facebook that you saw 30 patients one day.
I did.
Half of which were small businesses. So how did you make that connection to the small business? Because that's probably really good for you. You only have to go to one place, see many people.
Yeah, that's the ideal setup. So I connected with them was through either I was seeing one of their employees as a house call patient, and I just say that, you know, hey, I can treat you at your work as long as it's okay with your, you know, your HR and your, you know, boss and all that stuff. And then another one, the big one was I treated like an executive at this company on a Sunday. They're having a bad headache, and it just randomly called me, and I happened to be open. Goes back to being available, and that's how they started that out. And now I'm like there once a month or so for like, you know, they have me out there. And the first time I did it, it was tough because it was all new patients. So I mean, it's a little more of a process there. I'm not doing a 99203 on everyone. You know, it's very focused. But now when I go there, I know all these people, and it's, you know, most of them are just wellness type of people. They just want to get adjusted. They don't really have any primary concerns. If they do, we can set up a house call later. And that's how I made that connection. So I haven't really specifically marketed to companies. It's just word of mouth through other companies. And when I did start out, I was doing like chair massages at companies. I don't do those as much anymore. Just sends the wrong message. I don't do massage. So, but I found that that could be a good way to, now I think about it, leverage maybe, okay, I'm doing a massage here. We could easily just set up a table and, you know, do it in this dentist office. Cause a lot of the companies I work with are, you know, they're under 50 people, you know, small, you know, contracting companies and dentist offices and, you know, little banks, stuff like that. So
I think dentists would be great. I mean, we see a lot of dental assistants in our practice and dentists.
Yep, and they're very health oriented already, and they're a really good market. I think if you want to market kind of the small business and see like 3 to 10 people, you know, on site, and that would be ideal. I mean, if you saw 10 people on site, you know, you're done for the day. You know, I mean, in a way, because go ahead.
How do you structure payment for that? Does the company pay, or each patient pays individually, or does it just depend on the situation?
It just depends on the situation. A lot of times I'll have a house call patient that wants me to meet them at work, and one turns into 5 really quick. You know,
that's nice.
You know, I'm just sitting there just getting them adjusted, and someone kind of peeks and say, "Hey, can I get checked out?" Or can I get adjusted quick if I've already seen them? And then it turns, so then in that case, they're each paying individually. And I found that works fine, because if you're at a big, you know, like a Citibank, you know, there's a lot of red tape, bureaucracy, you know, with the dentist office. I mean, the dentist, you know, the clinic owner's making that decision, you know, and they're like, yeah, it's okay. I don't care. So it's an easier, you know, to get in with those companies, I would imagine, than but then I've had a couple times where they've had like an appreciation, you know, event, and they wanted me out there, and then they just paid the bill. They just wrote me a check, and I was just going to be there for, you know, 4 to 8 hours, and and we just kind of negotiate that. It's not a big deal. And so it's pretty laid back.
Except for everyone's fighting to get to you.
Yeah. Yep.
What are some office system tools you use to keep overhead low and run more efficiently? Do you have online scheduling, VAs, text reminders, that kind of thing?
I did. So so my patients have my cell phone number. So I'll text them. And again, my day might typically see anywhere from like 6 to 30 is kind of an anomaly, but like 10 to 12 pretty average day for me.
Okay.
And so I can keep a lot of that in my head. I just had some continuing ed recently with a HIPAA officer, and I was kind of using a calendar, and I don't know if it was HIPAA compliant, to be honest, because I didn't have a business contract with them. Like it's not an EHR. So now I'm kind of thinking I need to do something a little different, because I don't know if that's totally compliant, keeping it on a calendar like that. But for the most part, my calendar it's I can keep it in my head. It's just back to back to back to back to backs. And I do cluster book. And, or I try to as much as possible. And so, yeah, so I really don't use too many tools. I mean, I'll text, for reminders, just reminding you about an hour before your 5 o'clock house call this evening or whatever. And then my wellness patients, I schedule them once a month, and then so a day or two before I confirm via text if they want to keep that appointment, if we need to move it back or forward or whatnot. So again, it's embarrassingly low overhead. I don't have any tools helping me run this practice right now.
So have you used any tool that didn't work, or tried to implement something that hasn't panned out quite right?
I did try to do online scheduling, and that's my ideal. I don't personally like talking on the phone. I always feel like I'm getting interrupted. So I prefer patients would text me, and I have that on my website. You can call or text with the hope that they text. But and then when I had the online scheduler, it literally was they'd go onto the calendar online on my website, and they would it was synced to my Google Calendar, and they wouldn't see what I was doing per se in my calendar. They just saw times were blocked out, and they'd pick a time or a date that worked best for them. And I don't know. I wish I could market that a little better. I wish people would use that. I only had like a handful of people using it every month. Most people called, especially new ones. They didn't use it. I had a handful of new ones use it. But yeah, my ideal was like to have something like that. So it's kind of like Lyft or Uber or something like that. And they just schedule at a time that works best for them. And they have their address and where I'm meeting them. And then we just go from there. So
that would be nice. You need an app.
Yeah, no, maybe. That's what, and I've talked to people about it. I hear apps are really expensive to develop. I guess I don't know much about the process. And to be honest, that calendar worked just fine. It's just, there's a matter of getting people to use it. And I don't know how to, I guess I wouldn't even know how to promote.
You could have a VA that calls them and maybe walks them through the process.
Yeah. I did something like that one time on my Facebook. I had a video. It was kind of a poor quality video, and I just walked them through and shared that on my Facebook. But I guess I didn't do like a big ad promotion with that or anything either. So.
Oh, that's a good idea. You should use Loom.
Yep.
So do you think you'll ever go and have a brick and mortar, or maybe invest in a mobile office? Yeah,
I've thought about it, because the one benefit, well, there's a lot of benefits to brick and mortar or a mobile office, like a running, RV or transit, is that your environment is always the same. So you kind of have this consistency, and when patients are coming in, they're coming in onto your turf, so you kind of have this, this process. And so when you're going into a house, it's always different. You always got to set up, and, there's that. So I've thought about, maybe at some point, if I really got where I was working with businesses specifically, like, more than 5 to 7 a week, I think, that I would consider like just building up a unit. There's a couple guys on our forum that, that's what they do. They, Dr. Jeff Solomon out of Miami, I think, that's what he's been doing for years. And you pull up in the parking lot. Yep, you pull up into the company parking. Now, he works with some big companies, and you pull up in their parking lot, and they just come out, and they come in. I mean, it's really, a mobile unit it's really not any different than a brick and mortar. It's just they're coming onto you, so all the liability isn't on the company. They're literally coming into your clinic. So, yeah, it probably would be a nice thing. And it's a giant billboard. I mean, people see that. Yeah. I mean, rolling around town, I mean, it gets attention. So, Yeah, no, I would consider it at some point. I like what I do right now because, especially now it's springtime here in South Dakota, I get to be outside. I get to, some people like to just get adjusted out on their deck or outside in their front yard or whatever. So, or in their driveway, in their garage. So it's, that's the one thing I do like about house calls is I'm not kind of confined to an office. If I have a gap in my practice, that day, a couple hours, then I might get a workout in or, mow my lawn or, just kind of hang out. As opposed to I have to be in the office because, we do take walk-ins or someone could call or whatever. So,
but you'd keep it mobile. You like that?
I think I would because, there's probably I feel like there's 170 chiropractors just in my town of 180,000 people. Those are licensed chiropractors, not necessarily separate businesses. And from my perspective, I know we all do different things. We know there's over 100 different techniques. But from, I think, the population's perspective, we probably all do kind of the same thing. And what's to distinguish chiropractor A on the street across from chiropractor B on the street? And, with house calls and having, extended hours and being mobile, it really, people, they kind of take notice and they're like, wait, I've never heard of that, so it's my unique selling proposition, So
yeah,
yeah.
Yeah.
So go ahead.
Right. No, you go ahead.
Oh, so when you go into an office, unless you hear, they have such a great reputation, maybe that's their USP. You don't really know what the difference between them until you go in to a chiropractor and then maybe go to another one for a second opinion. Then you find out, what's different between the two. But with house calls and texting for appointments and being available, that's really obvious to people and that's unique in my town, at least. So.
Cool. So in terms of success in business, what do you see that separates the very successful doctors from those that are struggling?
I think it is, you really have to get good at marketing and getting new patients. If you can, you could be, I hate to say it, you could be not that great of a chiropractor and just have a flood of new patients coming in every month. And you can be successful. And that's just because chiropractic is so powerful. You could do flying 7 on a lot of people and probably help 60, 70% of the population, to be honest. So I think what holds people back is they gotta be willing to market. They gotta be willing to listen to what their market is telling them and not, get obsessed. I've been guilty of this. You go on some of these Facebook groups and you're hearing contradictory information from, people that seem like they know what they're talking about. They probably do, but from their own perspective. And so pick one guru, or so to speak, and learn how to market. The first 3 to 5 years of a business is all about customer or new patient acquisition. It's not about branding and whatnot. You need to have that, but most businesses fail because it's not because they had a bad idea or it was a horrible business model. It was, they just didn't get enough customers, and they need to focus on that the first 3 to 5 years. So that's what I would say.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. They have to be really invested in it and building it. Yeah.
Yep.
And keep that momentum. I think you have, maybe a flood come in once and you just think that's going to always happen, but really you keep that momentum and you keep networking and keep marketing and keep building it. So
and it's practices 3 things in my opinion. It is new patients, it's retention, and it's pricing, right? You can't really have retention if you're not getting patients. So you have to get the patients first. You got to get the floodgates opened, and then you got to learn once you're getting busy but they keep going out, it's a revolving door. Then you got to work on your retention, whatever that means for your philosophy. And then from there, you kind of figure out the prices. I talked the other day to someone about, they think, they want to double their practice or, really expand. And they think, well, I need to see 50 new patients a month and I'm seeing only 10, and it's not like that at all. You only have to increase, each metric, the new patients, the pricing, and the retention by 30%, and you can double your practice. So instead of seeing 10 new patients a month for $100 a visit on average for 10 visits, which is $10,000 a month, just increase it to 13 a month for 13 visits to maybe 130, and there's $21,000. You doubled your practice, and you didn't really increase the metrics significantly.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
What about some advice for new docs that are interested in starting a house call chiropractic business?
Well, first thing I would do is call your malpractice, see what they think of it. That's what I did. They didn't seem to have a problem. And then from there, if they're thinking about starting a house call practice, you got to have the basic stuff. Your table, if you're going to use an EHR, vehicle, and then figure out how you're going to market it. And then I don't think it's really any different than any other business. Is just getting new customers. So yeah, I mean, that's what I would tell them is, make sure all the legal stuff is, set with your local ordinances and your board and your malpractice, and then go forward from there and, figure out who your avatar is, figure out your message, and then go talk to those people and try to schedule, your first, 10 to 20 house calls that month.
Mm-hmm. And they should definitely join your Facebook group.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, definitely. That group,
it's a great group. I like it.
Yeah, I mean, I started it, to be honest, to get free advice. And, and as chiropractors, we tend to get on an island by ourselves during the year unless we go to a lot of, like continuing ed or, practice management groups or something. And especially with house calls, I mean, I felt like I'm pretty sure I am the only house call chiropractor in South Dakota, exclusively house call. I'm not saying I'm the first one to ever do a house call. But so you kind of get on an island. So I thought I knew a couple other people and that were doing it around the country just because I found them on social media, and I friended them on Facebook, and I was like, hey, I'm gonna start a group, so I'm gonna add you on this, and then it just kind of blossomed from there. So. And
what's the name of it for those that want to find it?
It's House Call Chiropractors Forum. It's very boring. I was thinking in search engine optimization. Yeah, it's a horrible name, but it definitely gets the point across.
Well, I found it. So
yeah. So,
do you have any daily rituals, habits, or anything that you do each day to kind of get ready to go?
Yeah, I mean, I always wake up and do cardio in the morning. I just like to. Just kind of wakes me up. Get some coffee in me, kind of do my affirmations, that kind of deal. Visualization. It's not really a big deal. It's just kind of, I think about what I want my goals and whatnot for the month or the year, and write out my affirmations. That's something I got from that practice that I was associating down in Texas, as we wrote those out every day. And then I just go into it, and then it's really fun, actually. I mean, just seeing, having a full schedule, and just helping people and doing house calls. And then at the end of the day, feeling like you helped a lot of people. It's really great.
Cool. Do you have a favorite book that you could recommend?
I read a lot. And my current author that I'm really like, I bought several of his books is, his name's Ryan Holiday, and he's not a chiropractic marketer, but he's just like, he sells for big companies, but the concepts are there. And the newest book that I read from him was Perennial Seller. And I guess maybe a follow-up to that book would be, I think it's called Growth Hacker Marketing, which I thought was...
I think I've heard of that one.
And it's basically it just kind of, it takes the young tech startup way of marketing a business without any, the traditional background in marketing, so basically the whole concept is you should build marketing into your product or service, right? Instead of, building it and then sending it off to a marketing crew that has to market it. It's like, no, it should be, it should be priced appropriately so it goes viral. Like people are like, wow, I can't believe this is that. Or like you have to have a great referral program or just a great service that it just speaks for itself, right? So that's the first thing in, concept in those books.
Mm-hmm.
And I think
Awesome.
mobile and house calls definitely speak for itself.
Uh-huh.
So
I'll have to check it out. I know I've heard of that second one.
Yep. Yeah, it's a really good, but it's a short read. I mean, it's only like 50, 60 pages. It's not very long. It's very small. You could read it in, probably about an hour, to be honest.
Okay. What's the best business advice you've ever received?
Let's see here. I think the best business advice is, I heard it from, he was a practice consultant that my boss worked with when I was down in Texas.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, there's two things. It's value service at a fair price. So it's both. You need an attractive price at a great service. So the two.
Okay, wait. What was that again? Because I think it might have cut out.
Okay, so value is quality service at a fair price. So you need an attractive price and a great service, and the two aren't mutually exclusive. And that's it. Really, when you get your pricing right, and I get why chiropractors get so on our forum. I don't know if you've seen it. Pricing comes up quite a bit. It's really important, and you have to get that right, and whatever that is for you. And then the other one was from Chris Doe. He's a marketing guy, and he works with big companies, and he's kind of a designer in terms of like website and logo design. But they work with like big companies. And I mean, I heard him say marketing is where the real work begins, right? Mm-hmm. You have to get the patients in or the clients in, and you do what you do. You should know what you do, and you should always develop and cultivate your skill set. But ultimately, I mean, if you want to build a successful practice, I think it comes down to learning how to market and retain.
Mm-hmm.
So those are some of the pieces of advice that I learned and I take to heart. I mean, those quotes are kind of pinned up in my home office, on the wall. And there's a lot of stuff that I could go on and on about business with, but those are the big ones.
Nice. I like it. Did you, or what's the best way for people to connect with you?
They can, a lot of people private message me on Facebook. If they see me on the house call forum, you can private message me. That's usually where people connect with me. And then if we want to talk on the phone, they can give me a call. That's mostly how people connect with me. I haven't had too many people email me or anything like that. I mean, even you connected with me through Messenger, I think. So
I did.
And I try to get, I'm a millennial, so I have my phone on me all the time. I'm going to answer it. So.
Okay. Well, we'll have the links on our website, and I appreciate your time.